Art and Life. Today, on this first episode of a two-part episode, we're going to talk about how important it is to be organized and have your studio cleaned up. Not all the time, not when you're being creative, but at the end of a project, it's time to put everything back where it belongs. And I hope this will help you in your personal organization of your supplies and maybe even your life. So here we are in the studio, and we've made some progress. I did pack up all those acrylic supplies. There they are. They're packed up. And I finished the painting for to hang and mark. So that's a relief. But this is what I call, after a very difficult project, complex project, this is what we end up with. And I must say, what I call this is creative chaos. Creative chaos. Wow. Can't keep working on the next major project with things in this state. So we're going to continue the cleanup, and we'll see what we can do from there. It's time to clean up. And what I'm going to try to do is do two things at once. I'm going to try to do the filming of this segment, and I'm going to try to show you how I organize my studio after a tremendous effort at finishing someone's painting. All right, here we have this problem of everything being so mixed up. The first thing I need to do is to take the painting, which is finished, and put it to one side. Now, the next process is going to be to sort out the watercolors and to sort out the acrylic paintings. So the acrylic paints are stored in plastic bags. So we're going to get those over to one side. And the watercolors are in a different area. And just a minute here, I have to get my watercolor supply. Here they are. There's the watercolor right there, right in front of me. So this is watercolors. We're going to organize that. This is acrylic. This goes over here. My brushes. We're going to pick out all the brushes and get them together so that they can be washed out right away. The problem with acrylic brushes is that if you don't wash them out immediately, that paint hardens up in there and ruins the brushes. So we're going to put the brushes off to one side. More acrylic paints. Okay, acrylic paints are going over here. More brushes. Brushes go over there. It's beginning to look better already. We're going to take that water and we're going to pour it right on my succulent plant. It really will help the plant, won't harm it any. All right, we're going to put the watercolor over here. Pens, goodness sakes, pens go in my desk drawer. Over here. Here comes the acrylic box. I've used this. I always like decorative boxes, so I cover my boxes. It says acrylic paints very clearly on there. All right, we're going to stop for a minute and make sure that we're actually filming what I'm doing. Yes, it seems to be recording. So we'll go back to the problem. There's some paint on the floor. Oh, good grief. Let's get that paint. Here's more acrylics. Over here, more acrylic. There we go. Okay, I think we've retrieved all the acrylic paints. So how are we going to get these things organized? One of the problems with painting is it just takes so long to do everything. So if you want to get organized, it wastes your time. So we're going to dump out all these acrylic paints onto here. And what I found is it's important to sort them by color. So we want to have all the greens together, all the blues together. These are very special paints. These are kind of like shiny paints. So they're going to go off to one side. Now, here we go. This is a red. So what's going on in here? What have we got here? Okay, yes. These are the yellows, ochres, golds. So we're looking for here. Orange goes in there. Yellow goes in there. What's this one? I don't even know what that one is. Doesn't have any sign on it. Kind of a puzzle. We'll have to figure that out later. Here's another shiny paint that goes in a different category. Here's another inference that goes over there. All right, we're still looking for yellows. Here's another yellow. Quadricentennial gold, that goes in here. This is Naples yellow. There's our yellow box, yellow bag. All right, I believe we have all the yellows together. So next time when I want a yellow, I'll look in this bag and be ready to go. So that's gonna go in here. Okay, next we have, what do we got here? Greens. Boy, I'm really low on green. This one's just about dead. Probably nothing left here. That means the next time I go to the store, I've got to buy green paint. Very little green there. There's a dark green. This is deep permanent green. Any more greens? No. So we can see right away I'm really low on green paint. Next color we have here blues, turquoise, and we have purples. So here's a blue, goes in here, there's another blue, there's a purple. This is, what is this one? This is deep violet, turquoise, that goes in here. That's a red, doesn't belong in here. Okay, in that one goes. All right, here's another bag over here. And this has reds and oranges in it. So here goes the red. This is a magenta. It's a blue. Here's another red. Van Dyke, red, black. And this has lost the top. I see it down here on the floor. Oh my goodness. Okay, we gotta have the top on. Very important with acrylic paints. Make sure you get the top on right away because they harden up so fast. So that's a red. Now, where did I put the browns? I think I may have had the browns in here. Although this looks, oh, here's the brown package. Burnt sienna, burnt umber, and yeah, this is browns. That is iridescent copper. So that goes in the brown category. What is this one over here? Let's see, what have we got? Iridescence. Yeah. So these are all the iridescent paints. That's iridescent, iridescent. What is this? This is really strange. Oh, it's a blue with no label. Gosh, that's weird. All right, so there's a blue, there's a blue. What else have we got? Okay, we have a few that are left over. Two blues, a black. So I need another bag, but I think for the time being, we're just going to say these two blues and my black will go on the top there. Now, these are my sticks, popsicle sticks, and I use these for mixing the paint. It's a wonderful way of working with acrylic paint. So they go in there. And then we're going to put these also very odd paints. That one's a bronze, the other's kind of a copper, iridescent paints. They're going to go in there. And wow, are we ever making progress? Okay, good. That's where you store, along with the big thing of white, big jar of white. Okay, so we've got that out of the way. We've got our brushes organized. This is very important, directions for my camera. So that got saved. Okay, things are looking better already. Next thing that would really help, I like to keep my Rolodex up here. I was working with a student a while back and she said, "Oh, what's a Rolodex?" I said, "Well, if you're old-fashioned like me, that's where you keep your addresses." So I know I should be keeping them on the computer, but I'm a big fan of my Rolodex. All right, next thing to do is we're going to straighten up the cards here. That's looking much better. Two very important notes. Here's a piece of trash. Put pencil back in there. We're going to next get the watercolors straightened out. More cards over here to straighten out. Put them together. Fold this down. that over there. Very important cards go together there. This is very important. That belongs together. All right, we got these cards organized here. All right, there for the art reception. It's coming up. It goes over there with that. These things get organized there. The scissors belongs over here, in that drawer. And these things are going to get washed out. So that's a start on how to get organized. And look how much better it looks already. Tremendous progress has been made. And next we're going to show you how to straighten out the watercolor paints. Also, very important, so you don't waste time. Art takes a long time. Don't want to waste it. Have to be organized. It bothers me tremendously when the papers get all piled up this way. It represents a lot of obligations that I've taken on, volunteer work, keeping track of my records, doing publicity, all those kinds of things that an artist does, keeping track of my classes, who's taking my classes, and so on. So it's surprising how much record keeping there is for a full-time art career. So moving around my studio, this is the area over here where I've been doing oil paintings, small oil paintings, and I'll also discuss how I organize my paints, how I try to keep things in order. This is a volunteer project over here. I'm doing a sign for Pierce Middle School to advertise the outdoor classroom that's behind the school over to the left side. And I want to attract visitors over there. I'm going to be working on this sign, and I'm going to try to show you some of the process that goes into making up the lettering and completing a sign like this. And this table over here is my treasure. At some point I may describe all the things that we store in here. It was made by Tom Chippendale, a local carpenter, and he designed it with my help. We all both designed it together. And he also built all the desk and the place for the computer to my specifications, so that it's both a storage unit and a file unit and a place to put the video equipment. Another thing I'm going to discuss in future segments is how to take care of your watercolor paints. This is not the way to do it, and I have a method, and we will be discussing that. We'll talk at point of how you organize your brushes, and then also I think it's time to do a top to bottom overhaul of my storage closet over here. I think that might be of interest, how an artist goes about making decisions about what to keep, what to throw out, what to give away, and how to organize your equipment. So what I want to stress is that when you're an artist, it takes a lot of time to produce art. So you want to be very, very efficient. You need to be organized. You can't be spending all your time wondering where does the glue bottle, or where's the ruler, or what color. I can't be going through here and saying, where's the orange paint? No, I haven't got time for that. So organization is extremely important in getting projects accomplished on time, on schedule, and a good example of that, very exciting, is that I've been commissioned to do a portrait of my husband for Morehouse College. He's going to be receiving some sort of an award from Morehouse. We're very thrilled about this. It's a traditionally Black African-American college in Atlanta, Georgia, very famous, connected with Martin Luther King. So that portrait I have to finish, have it down there in Atlanta by the 19th of March. And I have to say, a little nervous about that, but I will also document that, hopefully take you through the process of how I go about completing a portrait, and particularly one on a tight schedule like that. All right, let's see what we can do with these papers. This may not be the best idea in the world, but it's my solution. All right, brushes we discussed before, and the watercolor supplies we have to put to one side. This technique may not work for you, but it's a suggestion. So close up the calendar. Yes, I do use a calendar. I know, very old-fashioned. Put the pencils away. Pencils belong over here in the drawer. We're going to get rid of those. Now, all these papers, we're not going to worry about them. It's sort of a psychological problem. So we're going to take all these papers. We certainly don't need the watering can here on this part of the desk. We're going to take these papers, they belong, and the slides belong over here. All right, get those out of there. Take these papers, all right. Take the memberships from the MFA, take the ArtScope magazines, and writing for ArtScope, put them in the pile. Smith Bulletin, put that in the pile. Photographs, all right. And make a nice stack out of it, just like that. Perfect. We put it to one side. Put away the rubber bands and this chip. So we line everything up here. My goodness, isn't that an improvement? Now, what happens with this stack? What I do is I take a little bit at a time, a few pages, and I figure out what needs to be done with it. What needs to be thrown out, what needs to be mailed off, what letters need to be written, what needs to be recorded, what needs to be stored. And if I have it organized, and I find that I can really get through it in quite a hurry. So working more on watercolors and how you could do it. This is the watercolor I just finished for Two Hang. It was a very hard watercolor to do because of all the perspective and the shading and the details. However, was happy to do it. She's a neighbor and she wants to give it to her son for a Valentine's Day present. So Etta got it done for Valentine's Day. Great. Okay, so the way most watercolorists, amateur watercolorists, buy a pad like Arches. It's expensive, but it gives you a pad of reasonably good watercolor paper. I think it ends up being about $2 a sheet. If you want to buy really good watercolor paper, you have to expect to pay, say, $14 or $15 or more dollars per sheet. So this is may seem a lot, but it's still a bargain. Now, one of the attractive advantages of this is it fits in your suitcase. So when you're on the Mediterranean or the Rocky Mountains, you put this in your bottom of your suitcase, put your brushes on top, and your watercolors in plastic bags, your pencil, your eraser, your pencil sharpener, and you're ready to go. Now, how do we get this paper off of the pad? There's my telephone ringing. Sorry about that, nuisance telephone call. So now we need to get this off. Actually, this one's sort of peeled off on its own. What I found is that you need to use kind of a knife that has a dull edge, and a palette knife is really the best thing. There's a little gap up at the top here where the black does not show, and that is where you insert your dull knife and begin moving the knife this way, not that way you'll cut the paper, but at this angle, and you very carefully, gently move this along until it begins to loosen up. And then you just keep on moving around. Now I have to admit, I use something you should never use. I never use Scotch tape. I'm not supposed to use Scotch tape, but I did. All right, so here we go. All right, this kind of goes in and you gently pull it up, and that will get the watercolor off. Now, on a recent trip, we were on a ship. And I have my watercolor pad because I've done, probably 200 watercolors while I travel. And I didn't have the knife. I said, how am I going to get this off? How am I got to get this off of here? So I looked at this boat, the ship. I'm sorry about the Scotch shape. At the ship card. I said, I bet that'll work. So I inserted it in here. And I'm not going to go all the way around because I don't want this paper to come off. But I inserted it here. Let's see if I can get it in there. There we go. And guess what? It worked perfectly to help get the paper off. So this is now a permanent part, not only a reminder of a cruise, but a permanent part of my watercolor supplies, which include, and by the way, you can't take a knife, anyway, right? So this is something like this, or a credit card, use a credit card. You need to have a couple of pencils. You need to have a pencil sharpener, and at least one good eraser, white eraser. And by the way, before you use the eraser, you have to get that black, stuff, that graphite off of there. Otherwise, you'll have a black smear on your paper. You try not to use too much pencil and too much erasing. And some watercolors don't use any. They just start right off and paint away without any pencil. What convinced me that I could use pencil, which I was taught when I worked with Gertrude Temple, my beloved teacher as a teenager, we did not use pencil. I looked at Winslow Homer, the greatest watercolorist ever. And I said, oh, he's got pencil. So if Winslow Homer has pencil, I can use pencil. I've been using pencil ever since. Okay, in the next segment, we'll talk a little bit more about cleaning up your palette and getting organized for watercolor. Thanks for listening. Well, I've got all my papers organized and filed, and I have a few little things here I need to attend to. And we'll also organize the acrylic paints. Hope this has been helpful. Thank you.